know what it is to have a son or a daughter die before their time. So many people know what it is to have a baby die. It's just that, you see, we don't like to hear about the death of children, and so it comes to the community on low tones, and then it moves away and we don't want to talk about it anymore because it feels so close to us. What if it were my child? If it can happen to your child, couldn't it happen to my child? And many of us know what it is to hold a baby in our arms and to see their perfection and to know the depth of love. And we know that sometimes death drives us crazy. So even these two women who happened to be prostitutes, even these two women knew the value of life. Even these two women cherished and loved their children. But that's not what today's sermon is about, is it? It is not about cherishing and loving your children. It is about what lies underneath it all, which is wisdom. And with wisdom lies truth. So today I ask for your wisdom. What are the best roads to drive on here? Anybody know? The best roads. What roads? None. Okay, then let's go to the worst. What are the roads that are the very worst to drive on? 95? 610? Route 1. Okay, so now tell me which roads have the worst road surface? 95, 610, it's almost look at that. Well, today I have a story to tell you about wisdom. My grandmother was a wise woman, and she knew about road surfaces, and she had a blacktop driveway, and every year she made sure it was coated with that asphalt sealant. My grandmother died about 15 years ago, and Ted and I bought her house. And we were not quite as wise as my grandmother, you see, because we drove up the driveway every year and we looked at the house and said, okay, what has to be done this year? My grandmother lived in Wisconsin, so we own this house in Wisconsin. So, you know, we have a week every year to make the house right. You know how that works, right? So every year we would drive up and we'd say, okay, the barn needs painting this year. Okay, the trees need trimming this year. Okay, so we had our list, but we never looked down. And you see, the worst part of the down was after you drove up the driveway. So it wasn't until last year that we looked down and said, ooh. There were pieces of asphalt the size of my fist, and then cracks the size of my finger around the pieces of asphalt on the hill. And we said, what are we going to do? New driveways, pretty costly. So we went and we bought the best blacktop sealer you could buy, you know, the filled kind, the expensive kind. We thought maybe 8 5-gallon buckets would do it. It's a fairly small driveway, probably the size of the section in this set of chairs here, but no, I think it took 16. And many, many hours later, we finished it up. Actually, I finished it up because other people were doing other things on the property, but I thought maybe that had taken care of it. So this year, when I drove up the driveway, I looked down, and I said, oh no, the cracks were still there, still the size of my finger. And I went out to buy the best driveway sealer, and I drove around thinking, what am I going to do? What is the right thing to do so that this driveway won't fall apart, and I'll have to spend thousands of dollars on it? And as I drove around, I noticed that some of the roads in my hometown had that hot tar poured on them and then the pea gravel on top. You know, the surfaces you really hate to drive on. And I thought, what if we did that to the driveway, and then the pea gravel filled in the cracks and the tar held it? And my mother said, before I even mentioned it, she said, you know, that really does make the roads last longer. And I thought, my mother is a wise person. So I went to the city and I said, do you sell used pea gravel? And they said, pea gravel. And they said, yes, we sell used pea gravel for $3 a ton. I said, well, so what, help me, what's a ton? They said, well, it would be more than a pickup load. So we thought surely the driveway couldn't take that much pea gravel, right? And my mother and I, our Japanese exchange student, bless her heart, we went and we loaded up pea gravel in the back of the pickup. We had it pretty deep, pretty wide. It wasn't full by any stretch of the imagination, but it looked like enough. And we we started, shoveling it on top of the driveway. The driveway was hot, so I thought it would mimic hot tar. And the gravel just didn't go hardly any distance at all. We made 4 trips. Before we were through, we had had a full $3 worth of pea gravel. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I think wisdom is like pea gravel. Wisdom is hard to get. It is small. It is tough to hang on to, and it is hard to tell that it is wisdom when you first see it. For instance, there's a book out by a guy named Izzo, The 5 Secrets You Must Discover Before You Die. Have you heard about it? Well, anyway, I hadn't heard about it either, but I saw it in the new book section, and I couldn't resist picking it up. And essentially, he goes on about wisdom. He says, what are the 5 things that help someone die happily? Don't we all want to, if we're going to die, wouldn't it be nice to die happy, instead of bitter or angry or, So he interviewed all these people who seemed to have great wisdom and tried to find out what it was that gave them this great wisdom. And one of the people that he was referred to said, when I was younger, my boss's wife got cancer. And he came up to me one day at work and he said, spend time with your wife, spend time with your wife. And he said, I probably didn't listen very well at all because I really enjoyed my work. And I just didn't, there was that piece of pea gravel, wasn't it? A little bit of wisdom from somebody who had spent their life all in work and not in relationship. And then when relationships started to go, tried to hand out wisdom, but there was no tar to hold it. It just rolled off. So if wisdom is pea gravel, little dull pieces, chips of things that roll over us in our life, then what is the tar? If we are this blacktop, what is the tar? I think the tar is made up of several things because, blacktop sealer isn't just one ingredient. It is several things, and one of them is faith. Because if you have faith, then you know that even though a baby is perfect, we aren't always perfect in our ability to listen or to hear. And we aren't always perfect in our ability to believe that someone else could be right.